Welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network, coming to you from the TeacherCast studios since 2011. Join us each week as we bring you the latest educational news, EdTech updates, and hottest interviews with today's most influential leaders in education. And now, for your host, Jeff Bradbury.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for joining us today and making TeacherCast your home for professional development. This is Digital Learning Today, a podcast for educators and digital learning leaders. On today's episode, we're going to take a look behind the scenes at the ISTE 2024 conference. 20,000 educators coming together in Denver this year, all to learn about innovative technologies and emerging technologies in their classroom. I have a fantastic guest today who's on the board for ISTE and ASCD, and she's going to talk to us about some of the things that's happening this summer and beyond. Hope you've had a chance over the last couple of weeks to check out some of the great things that are happening over on TeacherCast. If you head on over to teachercast.net/podcast, we have hundreds of great episodes of not only this show, but our Jeff Bradbury show featuring digital learning leaders, and also Ask the Tech Coach for our instructional coaching friends. No matter what you're looking for, check it out over on teachercast.net today. And if you're heading to ISTE, I hope to see you at some of my sessions. Monday at 10 o'clock, I'm going to be doing my first Ignite session, talking all about how you can create a dynamic instructional coaching department. At noon, I'm going to be featured at the Google booth, talking about some of the things I've done this year in my classroom. From 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, I'm going to be featured at the ISTE Instructional Coaches Playground, talking about some of the ways that instructional coaches can be more productive and how they can stay organized using some pretty innovative technologies. And of course, I'm going to be doing interviews all throughout the conference. If you see me, don't forget to tackle me, say hi, and of course, hashtag selfies with Jeff. My guest today has been a library media specialist for over 20 years. She's on the board for ASCD and ISTE, and she has a fantastic book coming out all about artificial intelligence and news literacy. I want to welcome onto the show my good friend, Dr. Cathy Collins. Cathy, how are you today? Welcome to TeacherCast.
Thanks so much. I'm awesome and just thrilled to be here and to share.
I am so excited to have you on. You have done so much, and you're also a full-time library media specialist. How has this school year been for you?
It's actually been an awesome school year. I've had just so much fun with the kids. So I teach a 6th grade class. It's 2 semesters, and I get to interact with kids every day, all day. And it's been a great year. A lot of great activities, a lot of enthusiasm for learning. I feel like we've really come, full swing out of the COVID days back into joyful learning. So it's been a really positive year.
If I was to walk into your classroom, and I know it's the end of the school year when we're recording this, but if I was to walk into your classroom this year, what would the kids be doing? What would they be learning about?
Okay, well, first thing I will say, I am not a hush-hush kind of librarian. So my classes tend to mirror my own personality. So there's always lots of interaction going on. I love doing project-based learning. So you might see a group of students working on a video that they're creating about a project. You might see in another corner students working on a podcast to share their knowledge about some topic in the curriculum related to library skills, coding, computer science.
It is interesting to see all of these different things merging together. And of course, and we're going to talk about the ISTE conference coming up, but you got to start off. Artificial intelligence, right? We have this topic that's in front of everybody. We're trying to figure out what it is. And at the same time, we have traditional education that's happening. You've been working on a project called News Literacy in the Age of AI, a cross-curricular approach. Talk to us a little bit about this project and why now is this the best time to release such a project?
Yeah, well, as you probably are aware, unless you're, living under a rock these days, everyone is talking about AI. AI is in the conversation. And yet, in some ways, AI has been around for a long time. Generative AI is the new thing that everyone's talking about. But, it's interesting, having been in this profession now for 20 something years and an educator for that long, things evolve, but some things stay the same. So I reference in my book, The Talking Heads, one of my favorite bands, and talk about how, it's the same as it ever was. So things evolve, technology evolves, and yet we're still teaching really the same skills that our students need to be aware of. So, whether it's looking at Wikipedia and saying, all right, well, is this a valid source of information? Or now it's looking at a chat GPT site and saying, oh my gosh, is this good? Is it bad? How can we use it for the positive? It's just all part of, in my view, the shifting landscape, the shifting technology and teaching landscape.
One of the things that we talk a lot about on this show is the innovation curve, and the fact that on the one side of the innovation curve, you have, 2% of the population is going to see it, get it, love it, move it, and go with it. Yes. And then you've got a section that's your first followers, and then we've got the hump, and it kind of goes to the other side. It seems like in the last 2 years, since ChatGPT came out, that 2% has gone 1,000 miles an hour, whereas those first followers, I'm not sure if everybody has caught up to that yet. Where do you see we are right now in the landscape of artificial intelligence adoption? And I'm saying that because I know you don't only work with teachers, you're working with districts, you're working national. Yeah. Where are we right now with this AI concept?
Well, first, I want to say I'm excited that you mentioned actually what I focused my graduate research on for my dissertation was all about what they call diffusion of innovation, and how, there are those early adopters, and then there are the ones that it just takes a while, and then finally everyone's doing it, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'd say we're kind of all over the place, aren't we? I've been to several workshops with ed leaders this year, and we'll be doing some more of these panel discussions at ISTELive. But I think we're really, from what I'm observing and in my conversations with other educators and educational leaders, we are just all over the place. Some of us are already. I talked to the amazing Carrie Gallagher in her district. Her school is already. They have rolled it out, and they have this amazing process, and they're doing it, whereas other districts aren't even touching it or have blocked it. So it's kind of all over the spectrum right now. Right. And I think, eventually that will be moving forward.
Well, how do we start this process? Obviously, we're going to have a lot of conversations. You've got some great panel discussions we'll discuss a little bit later coming up at the conference. How do you start this? Can this be started from the inside, or does this have to be superintendent, technology leadership leading the way?
Absolutely. It does not, in my view, have to be top down. I just started it myself just by sharing some amazing sites that I had discovered through different tech workshops. It's learning and then sharing, right? And so I love that approach. And I was so excited when I learned about certain tools, Magic School AI and Brisk, that lets you, as a writing teacher, offer feedback to all your kids in a much more efficient way. So there's all these amazing time savers for teachers. So I was really excited to just share that at a general PD choice session where teachers could sign up for whatever they wanted. But my session had more participants than the district would allow into that session. So that just, to me, that's just proof that educators want to learn about AI and how it can help them.
Well, what about the other side of that curve, right? I recently, I'm going to say hypothetically here, I had teachers coming to me saying, why are you teaching this AI stuff? Now I have to deal with it, and they're cheating in my classroom. I'm hypothetically, of course, right?
Yeah.
How do you bring that part of your school community over? Because this is not going away.
Right. Well, again, I think it's by sharing the positives of the technology. So sharing that, if you are creating assessments that allow your students to be creative, then there's no worry, no fear about the cheating. So again, it's just educating. There's always the fear factor, right? We're talking about diffusion of innovation, and the blocker, it's usually fear, and it's usually fear of the unknown. So I think just through slowly educating and giving teachers the chance to play with all of the wonderful things that you can do with AI, I think to me, that's the key.
Now, Cathy, I have to put my admin hat on here for a second. You mentioned there's a number of great websites that are out there.
Yeah.
And my admin hat says in order to give students access to that, we need privacy agreements, we need things in place.
Yeah.
But it's going so fast. Yeah. Me sitting here as a teacher, there's no possible way that I can go to my administrators and go, here's 15 different websites, go get your privacy agreement signed. How can we from the classroom start innovating, yet keeping in mind there are things that need to happen on the technology side of our school districts?
Yeah. So again, I think it's a give and take here where I will give an example of a teacher at my school who attended my session and was super excited about BRISC. And then on his own, he went to the administration, he took it up the totem pole and said, there's this amazing tool. Can you let me pilot it? And so just by being that, role model teacher, he was able to pilot it in his classroom, and the district looked it over. It didn't have privacy related issues, so he was good to go by just starting small, I guess. So he started with that one tool, promoted it within the district, and it's a two-way, right? Talked to the administration, made sure it met all our privacy requirements, and took it from there.
All the links that we're talking about are going to be over on our show notes. You can find out more information over at teachercast.net/podcasts. Now, today we're talking to Dr. Cathy Collins all about what she's doing in artificial intelligence in her library, but she's also on the board of ISTE and ASCD. Dr. Collins, talk to us a little bit about some of the things that are happening these days at ISTE and ASCD.
Sure. Well, I'm super excited to share that we are about to release these amazing principles for transformational learning. And so what those are all about, it's bringing a focus and a common language to our shared work of ensuring that all our students have access to impactful and joyful learning experiences. Well, we are hoping that these principles will be implemented thoughtfully, whether it's at the higher levels by educational leaders or in the classroom. So there are these principles, I can immediately use them to figure out gaps in my own practice, right? So they can be used independently by teachers as well as holistically at district-wide levels.
And it'll be great to hear about them at the conference this year. I mean, even right now, as we're releasing this, 20,000 educators are in Denver participating in the ISTE conference. I'm looking forward to being there with everybody. This is going to be I think it's my 12th ISTE. I got to ask, how many conferences have you been to?
Oh gosh, this will be, I believe, my 6th or 7th ISTE.
And what do you look forward to, not only as a board member, but also as a library media specialist?
Yeah, well, this is so interesting. So I tend to be an introvert. I definitely have that sort of stereotyped that I am an introvert. And yet there's this part of me that loves networking and loves sharing. And I don't get that in my day-to-day as much. So when I go to this conference every year, I get to fill my toolbox, and honestly, it just makes my heart happy to meet all these amazing, fired up educators and ed leaders from all over, not only the country, but the world. And it's just like making those connections, and it's all about joyful learning as educators, which oftentimes we are isolated in our specific roles and don't have that opportunity. So that's what it's all about for me.
There's going to be so many library media specialists attending the conference this year. What are some of the things that you look forward to doing as a library media specialist? Is it the sessions, the hanging out in the hallways? What gets you going?
Well, I'd say it's a little of all of the above. So specifically as a librarian, they have this amazing librarian playground. I love that word. word, the play and playground, because learning to me, again, it always should be playful, and the chance that we get to have to share our own favorite activities with each other is just awesome. And then there's just all sorts of, there's the social events, there's the sessions, there's just like endless opportunities to fill your hat and come home with great ideas to implement in your own library.
What do you usually look back at and say, this was successful because? What is usually those things that you're like, that was really awesome, or I met this person, or I saw that session? What really hits home for you?
Well, I'll just share a random through the ISTE Connect. So we also have that tool that we can use all year to just email each other and we're sharing. And a bunch of librarians just wanted to get together. There was no official way for them to do that outside of the playground and the official sessions. So we just free-form organized a spontaneous gathering before the day even started at 6 a.m. in one of the little cafe areas. And that was a lot of fun. I mean, that was successful just because, again, a bunch of us came together spontaneously, and it was authentic and joyful and just really about making those connections. And the other thing I love, I have to mention, we're going to do the golden tickets again this year, which is where any conference goer who spots a board member can approach that board member, and then they get a golden ticket, which they can take to the bookstore and get a free piece of swag. It's just a really cool little networky thing that helps us to make those connections with everybody.
So if you're out there and you're at the conference, selfies with Cathy,
yes,
get you some free stuff out there.
Yes, and in my case, you'll also get a Massachusetts bumper sticker for the car.
You got to put the AH at the end of all of that. Yes.
Of course.
I got to ask, talk to me a little bit about what it's like, or even what the process is like to be on the board for ASCD and ISTE. Were you on the board when they were merging? When did you become a member?
Yeah, no, I was already there prior, and I actually had started at the affiliate level. I was on MassQ, and I was on that board for several years as a PD chair, and then decided I wanted to do something more strategic at the national level. And through my work with the STEM committee, a colleague suggested that I run for election. So I have to say it was so exciting for me. I had never even run for student council as a kid. Like I said, I tended to be more the introvert. And so all of a sudden, I was campaigning for election and was very excited when I found out I had actually won this election and was part of the board. And this is, I think, year 3 now for me. I have 2 more years to serve. And I just am loving every minute of it. The chance to be part of this national, now merged organization that gets to implement strategy at like really high levels. It's just been so much fun and so rewarding personally and professionally.
And for those listening and who couldn't see the video of this, the bell just rang in the library and controlled chaos just happened.
Exactly.
Cathy, to the best that you can, take us into the back end of ISTE, right? Like, we know where we've been. We are now officially, correct me here, ISTE and ASCD. Where is the future of all of this? What can we look forward to from the organization next year and beyond?
Well, I honestly think the thrill of the merger, the joy of the merger is that we're taking the best of both communities and bringing them together. And now we are accessing each other's communities and each other's knowledge base and just doing amazing, innovative things for the field. So I think we can look forward to, with looking at those transformational learning principles as a really awesome first step, more of that, more of changing the impact. Hopefully, this is an international organization, changing the impact of education for the better on a global scale.
And the nice thing about what you just said is it is international. And there's so many different ways for educators out there to get involved. In fact, even the other day, I was having a conversation and somebody said, what's the best PD that you've ever had? And without even thinking, I said, being a member of the ISTE Community Leaders Group. And, big shout out to Margaret, big shout out to Lauren and everybody there who's been focusing on that. And of course, we had a conversation before we started recording about all the great work that Walter's doing. Talk to us a little bit about the importance of taking that step and joining the ISTE as a community and being a part of that organization in any way possible to lend a hand and to share your knowledge.
Sure. There are just endless ways to get involved. I mean, I started this journey as a volunteer, and from that, I found my group, actually several tribes, right? I had through the STEM network, and the STEAM network. So all the artsy people, all the library people, there are groups and communities and like different segments and ways that you can get involved, whether it's through something like being a community leader or getting involved with a specific event or the conference. There's just so many opportunities.
It is certainly something that I am excited about every single year, is seeing brand new community leaders get together. Of course, at the conference, there's opportunities for ISTE community leaders to get together. And if you're looking for information about that, head on over to ISTE.org and you can check out all the great stuff that's happening in the ISTE community leader community today. Cathy, as we're sitting here right now, and people might be listening to this while they're even in Denver, what do you see the next roadmap looking like? I mean, you're coming out with this book all about AI, and clearly things like AI, emerging technologies, are going to be leading what's happening in the classrooms. But where do you see this next year when we're in ISTE 2025? Where do you want to see the next 12 months?
Gosh, well, I think part of what we're planning right now is our first co-located conference. So that in itself is an amazing next step in our combined merger journey. So yeah, having a co-located conference, now we're face-to-face. Now we're able to access both sessions in both places. So that's very exciting. So more and more sharing, more and more becoming unified as far as our vision and our work.
And if somebody was listening to this and wanting to take that first step to get involved, what do you suggest? What's a good first step? Is it joining the community leaders? Is it getting onto a Twitter chat? What do you suggest that people do to get their toe in that water?
Oh gosh. Volunteering is awesome. I would say volunteer so that you actually really have a consistent way of meeting with a community of ISTE and ASCD folks and getting to know them better. So a shared whether it's a shared event or just signing up to do the conference. And then also ISTE Connect is a wonderful way to network. So and you don't need to leave home for that one. So for those of us who can't, that is just a wonderful tool to reach out, to say, help, I need help in this, or I want to get involved in this. Just reach out and through those networks.
The conversations on ISTE Connects is always busy. It's always booming. And I look forward every morning to seeing that rundown email of here's all the stuff that's happening. I've been able to get so many great resources from my school and from my curriculum through that. If you guys haven't checked out any of the stuff on ISTE Connect, please take a moment. We're going to make sure that we have the links to all of that stuff on our show notes here over at teachercast.net/podcasts. And Cathy, as we head into the summertime, first of all, thank you so much for joining us on this show today. Where can somebody get a hold of you and learn more about the great work that you're doing?
Oh, sure. I'm very accessible. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter at Dr._Cathy Collins.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you'd like more information, please head on over to teachercast.net. And of course, check out this and all of our shows over at teachercast.net/podcasts. So on behalf of Cathy and everybody here on TeacherCast, my name is Jeff Bradbury, reminding you guys to keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.
You've been listening to the TeacherCast Educational Network, hosted by Jeff Bradbury. Please reach out to the show with all of your questions on Twitter @TeacherCast or online at www.teachercast.net. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And please take a moment to write a review in the App Store.